Most hardcore. Some of them talk, but lacking in character. How can I relax when it's theft of innocence? The harmless are broken. Oh, what tragedy to meet death with the lost word unspoken. Hide it behind the foundations. Charity constructed house of euthanasia. Architects of house of cards remain hidden behind one noble cause. Extravagant facade masquerading as God. I don't buy it at all. I like the real thing raw. I tell the whole veil off. The lights on or off. I get mine either way. The stellar man in effect. I'll leave you free and breathless like true psychedelic acceptance. Worldview becomes transcendent. This midnight smoke is so high octane, paralyzing the presence. Hello everyone and welcome to This Week in Tyranny, the most hardcore news show on earth. I am your host Conrad Rogas and today is December 1st, 2023. And the reason I start like that is because this is like the third or fourth time I'm recording this video. So this is going to be the time right here. No more interruptions, no more technical difficulties. This is episode 52 of This Week in Tyranny, which means we've got the year-end episode. It is the 1-year anniversary, so happy birthday to This Week in Tyranny. And I will push back what I was going to do this week and push it back towards the next week. And then we could do like a year-end review of all of the different things that have happened this year. So this year in Tyranny is going to get pushed back. The reason is, this week, I want to do a freestyle episode. I need to just talk about what's on my mind. I need to just speak from the heart. So I'm leaving the news. I'm leaving everything for this week. Because you could get bogged down in the news. You could get caught up in day-to-day activities. And we don't see the forest through the trees. So I'm going to make use of this kind of mood I'm in, this kind of energy I've had, and use that to talk about the things that are important. It might be a bit of a rant. It might be a bit of a ranting episode, but it'll serve its purpose, I'm sure. First, this concept I wanted to talk about is dominating the conversation. Dominating the conversation, or whose voice is heard in conversations and where the problem is, like at the dinner table, or when you have a social gathering, or at the city hall. We live in a world where the loudest voice so often has the least to say. Often the voice, the person that is the most willing and the first to speak loudly and to express their ideas, the reason they're so willing to express their ideas is because their false self-confidence comes from being somebody that is basically living as a person who just absorbs ideas and becomes whatever is the most socially acceptable, who will get them the most social approval of the people around them. And that person who pursues that all their life and succeeds, they're the ones who are first to speak, because everybody else has patted them on the back and said that their voice matters. So that's the kind of positive reinforcement they've gotten all their lives. Meanwhile, you've got the people with the most to say, the people who really need to be the drivers of conversation, the creative minds, right? The people with the true will, the geniuses, or the compassionate people in society. They almost never speak first, because when you got some sense in your head, a person who's really a principled individual very often is going to have a bit of this humility, and the humility, being humble, is going to make you less likely to be the first one to boldly proclaim something, because you know the actual weight and meaning of proclaiming something to society and influencing others, right? So the people who are the most rational, the most compassionate, they really should be the loudest, but they're not. And long story short, this is kind of how we've gotten the society we're in today, where the people who are in the driver's seat are the people who absolutely should not even be in the vehicle. And you could look at these people that are just willing to get on TV and just lie all day. Obviously it's a low-hanging fruit to talk about Anthony Fauci at this point. Those guys that were telling you during the pandemic to do this and that. All these governors that went on, and one story I did this year was about the governor in Hawaii, who after the wildfires and people burned to death in Hawaii, who knows why they burned to death, by the way. You might have to talk about some exotic thermal weaponry if you really want to get to the bottom of that. But that guy, I remember his name, Josh Green, Governor Josh Green in Hawaii. He went after, he's the governor of the state. You've had tragedy in the state. He goes on and does like a media tour, and he doesn't interview and answers questions, and is talking about climate change and talking about regulations in this like lecturing tone. He actually used something, it's a bit of a paraphrase, but almost exactly the sentiment is what he said. He said basically, if people don't learn, they'll have to learn the hard way. These are the type of people that dominate conversations in society. And this is why I make videos like this, because I also actually was shy to speak up. By the way, all the things I'm going to talk about in this episode, and always, I don't point fingers at people, and I don't sit in a glass house throwing stones. I'm talking about things that I myself am guilty of. When I say people are, and I say, people are like this, I'm talking about all of us, including myself. So I'm not saying this because I'm better than anybody. I'm saying this because I actually have experience being as much of a piece of trash as most people are today. So I'm really talking about for like a story of recovery and healing is what I'm trying to get across. But I used to be one of these people that didn't dominate the conversation at all. Then I had my own experiences of basically, finding my teeth. What I mean by that is, I became basically living a criminal lifestyle. I talked about selling drugs and all of this, getting into fights, just wanting some trouble. That's how I found it within myself. And I just bring the street edge. I bring kind of the rough around the edges style to what I'm speaking, which are complete principles of nature. I speak about logic. I speak about facts, historical facts, true philosophy and objective morality. And I speak about defending women and children, not harming children, and promoting, consensual, voluntary, long-lasting, intense, intimate relationships. I'm basically promoting just everything that's good, everything that's good about the world. So I do that, but I bring in the street element. And the whole reason that I even mentioned that is because this is what we need more of. Because then when you end up having the conversation at the dinner table or having the conversation at work, it's always the person who is acting like they know the most about everything, like they know the most about society, or that they know left from right, that they know everything there is to know about societal systems. These are the same people who are getting their information from mainstream media. They're the type of people that have lived all their life either just looking for social approval, or they're so caught up in themselves, their ego, or caught up in an ideology that they think they can do no wrong. And these are the type of people we listen to. Why do we listen to them? So we really need to dominate conversations. If somebody is trying to tell you all about how necessary the flu vaccine is, or all the measles stuff, or I'm not even talking about COVID. Everybody who's so quick to tell you that you need to put a needle in newborns, they're saying up to 6 months. These people who are so quick, and then when you bring up the aluminum, you bring up formaldehyde, you bring up the heavy metals, you bring up the adjuvants, you say okay, and then we're always so nice. People are so nice. They have to be okay. I'm not saying I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but look at this in the vaccines. And these are the people who are going to push and push and they're going to get you into a box until your point, whatever point you've made, it's no longer strong enough. That's when it's time to dominate the conversation. Now, these motherfuckers who are telling pregnant women to go get vaccinated, fuck y'all. They're not dominating no conversations around me. And that's the time where really, if you're talking to somebody, that's why it helps to have somebody like me who's not afraid to get like knocked out or killed in a conversation like that. That turns into a confrontation real quick. Because this is who we need if we're going to, if we're going to live in this world. Because, hey guys, freedom's going away real fucking fast. So if you're in America and you're a guy like me, it's time to start dominating those conversations. If somebody's telling you something and you know you're correct, sometimes it's time to yell over somebody. And everybody talks all about peace. Everybody talks about, violence isn't the answer. No, obviously violence is not the answer. But we're living in a world where we're very quickly we're losing freedom of speech. And in the meantime, right now, today, in the present day, you've got what is essentially a poisoning campaign launched against children, right? And not just children. I'm using children to try to wake up that kind of, masculine spirit, these kind of men that I'm talking to. This is who I'm trying to get to. This is who I'm trying to awaken. They're launching what is essentially a eugenics campaign, right, against your children. So when somebody's doing something like that and they're not listening to you, like, how much longer are you going to keep your hands by your side? Like, you have hands for a reason. Sometimes you got to put hands on somebody talking shit like that. If somebody's, now I'm all for freedom of speech, but at the same time, if somebody's next to me and they're promoting eugenics, I'll slap the shit out of them right there, and we're done talking. We're done talking right there. And really, we are not taken seriously because we don't have the spirit to at least make them think about the threat of it. You've got people that are so comfortable to discuss about communism, like implementing communism and Nazism, and talking about eugenics, right? When they're talking about mandatory vaccinations, people are saying that that's fighting words right there, and they never face the consequences for anything. Now, I use the example of putting hands on them, but I actually would try not to. So let's take it down a level from there. Maybe they should at least have somebody getting in their face once in a while. And I do mean family members as well. Look, you can ask my family. If somebody tries to say something that I know is wrong, it gets very harsh very quick, because this is the right way to go about it. You have to care about principles deeply when you're living in a society that has sodium fluoride added to the water supply. And I always use this example because it's the easiest example for me. Nobody can still explain to me why we're putting fluoride in the water supply, the type of fluoride that is an active ingredient in rat poisons that they actually gave people in the concentration camps. They're putting that in the water. They're saying it's for the teeth. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that you assume that somebody will go out of their way to care about your dental hygiene, your dental health like that. Now, what people go out of their way to pour into your water are date rape drugs, right? Are drugs so that you lose consciousness so they could take advantage of you. That's the type of shit people put in their water. They put in shit in the water to try to get an edge up over you. And in the case of the government, they're putting it in the water to try to exterminate you. That's what the fuck we're living in 2023 and moving into 2024. I'll leave that there about dominating the conversation. Hopefully, I just wanted to maybe try to spark some thought, a little bit. Now, I got half a mind to end it right there. I've been making my episodes like an hour and a half, an hour long, and then they barely get any views, but it's okay. I never got into this for views. I realized the kind of battle I'm asking for. Now, one thing I want to talk about, since we're on the topic of children, right? The average man, the average good man in America, they're working most of the day, right? And then, of course, now it's not enough to work. You have to take care of, all of the purchases around the household. Now it's all the deliveries. Cars break down more now. There are all these extra things that we don't think about. All the technological things. Basically have to take care of everything around the house, get your family together. And you end up with like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours left in the day of free time, right? Between having to go back to work and doing all the things to maintain, just to provide a baseline of existence for you and your family. And you got a couple hours left. My question is, it's not really a question, but you got to ask yourself what you're doing with your free time. And it's not the pot calling the kettle black. I had to ask myself this because I used to think I was tired and I had barely any free time for myself. But I don't even have children. But to somebody who has children and they're leaving their children to a world like this, the world that we've built around us. It's not being built around us. We built this world. What in those couple hours that they see you at the house, what do they see? Do they see somebody watching football? Do they see somebody drinking in their garage? Or do they see somebody who's trying to break their bad habits? Somebody who's trying to be better? And they're seeing they're seeing a man who's not only a hero in the sense that he'd protect them and he'd jump into the fire for them and that he works. A hero in the sense that they strive for something with 100% of their effort, approaching 100% and trying to be better every day. Everybody needs to be doing this. I still have a long way to go. I'll still catch myself watching football. I'll still catch myself, just wasting time. I'll still catch myself eating garbage. It's not just you guys. It's me too. But guess what? It's a whole lot of effort that I'm making. And I know I'm ranting, but that doesn't mean my life is unpleasant. It's not. My life is extremely rewarding. And in most of my work that I put publicly, I'm trying to convey how actually rewarding and nice and happy it could be. This is not that happy episode. This is when I gotta get to people, and the few people who this is going to reach. I'm trying to ignite some sparks into a fire, into a wildfire. Not literally. Don't ban me. Where are the warriors? Where are the warriors out here? Because you look at your coworkers, you look at your family members. Everybody's so vanilla. Everybody's just so soft and benign, and just going about everyday existence like this world is fine. And this is where I disagree. I don't think the world is fine as it is. I don't think it's fine that you can watch your favorite show. I don't think it's fine that you have the relative comfort you have. And the reason it's not fine, because when you really, really take a good look, relationships are broken. The whole idea that you have to pay so much for organic food to avoid pesticides, to avoid poisoning, to avoid GMOs, to avoid actual poisoning of food. You have to work overtime just to keep your head above water, just to be healthy, to be physically healthy, to be spiritually healthy, not to mention emotionally healthy. This has all been poisoned. It's a multi-layered poisoning from the top down. And week in and week out, I talk about the ruling class, I talk about the dark occultists. So I'm not going to explain the structure again. But there's an occult web of control. And what it comes down to is, you got people that get it done. Those people that dominate conversations. Those people that, since they were young, they dominated. They used those extra 3 or 4 or 5 hours of their day to become who they wanted to be. And now they have little cliques. And now they're the bloodline descendants of royalty, or they're the CEOs, they're the Hararis, they're the Klaus Schwabs, or the Elon Musks. these are people who are driven, and people who are driven and at the top and they're making the decisions in society, they think you're trash. Everything that I'm saying, they think it too. But what I'm saying is, okay, we should change and rise from that position and stop being the way we are right now. The only other people who think the way I do, and a few other people, in this community, really, shout out to my friend Dan Alexander, really, I'll leave my friend Dan for next week. I'll talk about it. And obviously the people, I'm on the One Great Work Network, right? So the people who have helped me, the people who are on the network, I'm not talking to you guys. I actually am very appreciative for the respect I've gotten from my peers this year. Really, this year it was a great success for me because this is what I wanted to get done in a year. I wanted to get on the network. I wanted to have somebody, the people who are in this deeply, to at least acknowledge that I'm doing solid work myself, and I've gotten that. So it's not all that sour, right? And I'm not talking about, I'm not talking to you guys preaching to the choir, telling people who've been doing this 5-10 years that you're not good enough, that you're not doing something well enough. That's not my point here. I'm trying to reach the people who are like me, who are inactive. And I don't know what it's going to take, but hopefully I can convey. Let's go take a couple steps back. What I was saying about people who get shit done. And this is something that we are not. We don't get shit done. And people think that all these systems are there for their enlightenment, advancement, for their health. These systems are not there for your health. The healthcare system, the insurance system. All of these things are there just to basically have the dumb, ignorant public turn a blind eye, so that they could continue to rob you. They could continue to rob and really rape all of your resources. That's where we're at. And we've been at it for a while, but there is this thing called, the American Revolution, and the whole thing about free market in the United States of America that changed a whole lot. And it's not just America. What changed the world is the printing press, plumbing, the spread of information, the combustion engine. These kind of technological advancements, they actually have allowed us to live in a world where we can talk about this like that we can actually talk about changing who we are so we can live better. Without all this, if I was born in Cambodia 200 years ago, I wouldn't even have the ideas necessary for me to know that I have value as a human being, and that I should be aspiring to a heroic vision so that I could live in an even better world and ensure a better world for my human family and for my children. I wouldn't have even known that. The reason we know that is because of the freedom, and freedom is only a byproduct. The prerequisite for freedom is intelligence and really information. It's knowledge, right? So the reason we're free is because there was more knowledge, and a knowledgeable man and woman and child will never be enslaved, right? The Frederick Douglass quote, "Knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave." Now, that's going away. But we're still existing here. So now we're about to sit there quietly and rot in the corner while the same technology that could be used to free us is used to enslave us, because we're too afraid or ashamed to speak up and dominate the conversation against some motherfuckers who wouldn't fight their way out of a wet paper bag. And this is who we're allowing to rule over us. So at that point, if people like that are ruling over you, they're not ruling over you. It's really just you bending over on your knees, totally just giving them everything. And I'm going to leave it there. It could have gone worse. It could have gone better. There for sure is more to say, but I do want to keep it short and sweet. I'm going to open up the comment section and let's go. Let's get fired up. I'm ready. Christmas time. Happy holidays to everybody. Next week I'll talk about New York and the law they passed there. Spoiler alert, it might be about some concentration camps potentially. And that'll be next week. And I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next week on This Week in Tyranny.